All right, here we go. Let's talk about Candace Owens. Let's go. Okay, so full disclosure, I've watched every single one of her shows since Charlie died and was assassinated. And it's really interesting. And I think she just became number one podcast, so she's popping, and everyone's talking about her. It's obviously very contentious. I got a lot of opinions and thoughts, and I actually got a text from my mom today, and she knows I'm into it, and she was like, "Hey, check out this part of this podcast about Candace Owens being like a cult leader." Blah blah blah. So I was like, okay, let me see. So we're gonna watch that, and I'm gonna kind of respond as we go. And but I will say before that, I going into it, I do like Candace. I admire that she is brave, right? It's like she is not scared, and she has shown that she's willing to say what she thinks even if she gets fired or people hate on her and everyone attacks her, which I think to me, even if you're wrong, is admirable, right? It's like that's scary, especially when you're at a platform of that size, to like think something's wrong and say it when your boss and all the people around you say fuck you. That's admirable to me. And I think that has a lot to do with why her show does so good, because whether she's right or wrong, or you could say what you want about her, I think she's obviously not perfect. She obviously isn't right about everything, but I do get the vibe like she wants the truth, like just genuinely does actually care about the truth. And to what degree she's like filled with contempt and like vitriol and whatever, I think it's like I've said this thing before where it's like we need people like her and Alex Jones, because a lot of times the truth is so freaking crazy. You need people that just like read into every conspiracy and like dig into everything and are willing to believe more outlandish things, because sometimes is what the truth is. And like with Alex Jones, obviously you can criticize him easily too. He's been wrong a lot, but he's been vindicated many times, and he literally called 9/11. Like he's on record saying New York's going to have a terrorist attack, blah blah blah, right before the freaking towers went down. And he'd been talking about Epstein Island for 20 years, since forever ago. He knew about it, and everyone's like, "You're crazy, pedophile island. There's no way there's a secret pedophile island out in the whatever." It's like, surprise, like it was real. So these things do happen. And I do think it's like it's kind of like you got to break a couple eggs to make an omelet. It's like that. You got to have people like her, I think, that just freaking go in and are in there, right? And they're going to be wrong, and they're going to, say some wrong shit, and they're going to cause some damage to a certain degree. Um, but overall, I think it's pretty good. I will say, I think her obsession with Catholicism is like a little weird to me. Recently, she's been going on and on about the Calvary Chapel and like some pedophiles and like SA that's been happening like within Calvary Chapel, and I'm like, but if you want to find child abuse, look no further than the Catholic Church. It's like ground zero, right? And so that to me is a little sus, and I just don't get the Catholic thing. Like she's like, Catholic is the best. I'm just like, what the fuck? So that's kind of weird to me. And like I said, I don't think she. Okay, but the other thing about the Alex Jones thing is like, if you're just living in this world of conspiracies and people attacking you and people lying, and like I can see it from her perspective where, like, for example, with Josh Hammer and some other people like claiming that Charlie was pro-Israel till he died, right? His whole life, he always towed the line. And you see them say this, right? And then you see Charlie's like last appearance on Megyn Kelly, and you see these text messages of him saying I'm done with Israel, and like criticizing Israel and being like you can't buy me, and like being clearly pissed at Israel and questioning everything and losing Jewish donors and having all this pressure, right? And then you see these people just like blatantly lying about that and like pretending like that wasn't a thing. I could imagine how you're going to be pissed, you're going to be yelling, you're thinking everything's a conspiracy. You're like, what the fuck, right? So like, I understand where she's coming from to a certain degree. I don't want to shit on her too hard, but I will say this thing about the cult leader thing is interesting. So let's watch this lady. Her name is Alisha Childers, and let's just watch what she says, and I'm going to comment along the way. And and then after that, I've got this really interesting AI experiment to do with notebookLM, where I loaded literally all of Candace's videos in, and I'm gonna see how true, because like you can load in a bunch of sources and then make an AI podcast based on the sources. And since I know everything she thinks and everything she's been saying, I'm curious how true the AI podcast will be to what she's saying, or if it'll get PC-ified, because usually AI will not even go into conspiracies a little bit, right? It's really careful about them and stuff like that. So I'm doing experiments with research in Notebook LM. So I'm going to do that experiment after this. But let's watch this, and I'll comment as we go. Here we go.
Alisha, again, 7weekscoffee.com. Use my code
Okay, we're not doing
from
that
at Real Carrie Smith, and I believe she calls herself Carrie Deprogrammed on X. I have found her to be a really good voice on the tactics that are being used. And so what I'd love to do is just read through this and maybe make some commentary and then a few final thoughts as we close out. She wrote this: I've watched about 10 of Candace's cult episodes post-assassination. It's a fascinating window into cult indoctrination. Watching the full videos is even more disturbing than the clips. Some of the cult tactics she uses. Number one, she repeats herself. And I just want to encourage you, if you've been following Candace, if you're watching these videos, just take these points and ask yourself, is this what she's doing? Right? I'm not saying you should not listen or not, I mean, I think there's maybe a better use of your time, but I would never say don't watch it, right? But just apply critical thinking, but maybe ask these points. Is this true? Is she doing these things? So number one, she repeats herself constantly, repeats words and phrases she wants to stick. She repeats them instead of letting them hang there, where you might wonder, what's the evidence of this? The evidence never comes, but she makes the statement again and again with more conviction.
Okay, I'll stop there. The evidence never comes. That's a stretch, because the evidence does come sometimes, right? So that's a bit disingenuous.
As if she showed you the evidence. I see this. I saw it during the Macron thing. She will find the talking points that she wants you to repeat in other people's comment section. And that is what they repeat in the comment sections. It's very interesting when I post how they'll be saying the same talking points that have been repeated many, many times, again, still with no evidence. And when you ask for evidence, it's very hazy. It's insinuation. It's like, well, I think I saw something. It's not really evidence, though. So be watching for that. Number two, she uses sarcasm, mockery, and contempt probably 90% of the time now. Innuendo and implication delivered in sarcastic form. No evidence, but the tone tells you you're stupid if you can't see this. Now, I want to make a quick distinction between something like satire and what she's talking about here. Like Babylon Bee uses a lot of satire. Our friend Melissa Doherty does satire videos that really help uncover. They use things like sarcasm to uncover the truth about something. But notice what Carrie is saying here. She uses sarcasm, mockery, and contempt 90% of the time, right? It's one thing to make a video or to make a point using a bit of sarcasm or satire. But when that is all you do, and you're the one who's actually accusing people of horrendous evils without evidence, that's the difference. So it's innuendo, it's implication. And the point is to get you to the end of the episode where you're basically saying, like, obviously we all see this, we're not dumb. And that, again, I'm saying these are things I see in my comment section when I talk about Candace, is her apologists, her acolytes will come into the comments and just act like you're so stupid that you can't see what she's been saying. So I have found this to be really true. Number three is what's called forced teaming. So she uses a lot of inclusive language so that the cult feels like a home. Us, we will solve this. They can't stop us. They're trying to stop us. There's this going on. And that is.
Yeah, pretty much every creator does that. It's called having a community. It's a bit of a stretch to be like, that's a cult. It's a cult. But
it's another thing
fair enough.
Seen in my comments. Continuing with Carrie, she elevates herself to cult leader status constantly, usually after several we and us statements. She likens herself to David fighting Goliath. Again, I see this all over the comment section when I talk about Candace. People talking about us. We're just asking questions. She's representing us. We had these questions and she's asking these questions. And guys, there's nothing wrong with asking questions. But some questions are asked with a very much of an intention to lead you to a very specific end result. And there is a time when just asking questions goes into territory of making accusations with questions masqueraded, actually truth claims masqueraded as questions. Number 4, she ends every show reading effusive praise about herself. You're the hero. You're our David. We must protect you at all costs. Number 5.
That's kind of unfair too, because she's reading super chats. People pay money to get their chats read on the stream. So she's gonna read the super chats. That's what every creator does. That's normal. I feel like you can't really knock her for that.
She uses mystical knowledge that you must have to just trust her bro about. She uses the phrase, I don't know, but I know, over and over, even puts it on merchandise now, advertising that none of this is actually backed with evidence, but she knows. She says Charlie came to her in a dream. Trust her, bro. She uses this ghost Charlie to put words in Charlie Kirk's mouth from beyond the grave and refers to it from time to time, adding to it and embellishing when she wants to add extra authority to one of her attacks on people. She'll attack their character simply because their husband was in the military, for example. That happened. And then back it up with, oh yeah, this was one of the people Charlie warned me about in the dream. So she's applying to mystical knowledge, and even the sources, I would add.
She's barely doing that. And I would also argue, it's a little sketchy, but I would also argue that she's also just being honest with her experience, right? If you have a freaking dream about Charlie, you could say it, right? You're not allowed to say what you experience. And I feel like that's a very small part of the case she builds. And she even showed text receipts of Charlie saying he's going to get killed, right? So it was a long time ago, but saying how he has a feeling like he's going to get killed came with the receipts. So the fact that she would have a dream that he said he got betrayed, that's not that crazy. And I feel like it's fair to share that if you have that dream.
To that she says, I have these secret sources in this place and in this place. And then it's kind of like, you got to trust me because I have all this secret knowledge. And then even so much as saying that Charlie post-death came to her in a dream and told her this information. And so again, embellishing that and then keep referring back to that. Number 6, she pretends her life is in danger and makes reference to this in various ways in every episode, which triggers the attack dog sensibilities of her most rabid cultists. She needs to be defended, you see. And so this mobilizes.
Yeah, because they're probably going to freaking kill her, dude. Like, I honestly think if she died, I wouldn't be surprised. So the idea, like, she's literally, as far as like online attacks, she's getting smashed by freaking news and everyone from every side. So the idea that she's like, I'm getting attacked by everyone, yeah, that's what it's true. So I don't know.
And I actually saw this to a much less.
Your best friend literally got sniped in the neck and killed. So what are we talking about?
Extreme degree when I was in a church situation where the pastor was using some cult-like tactics like this. You become trained to defend them. They're constantly saying like, I'm under attack. It's
sometimes they are, bro. What are we talking about?
Really interesting because
dude got shot in the neck.
When you
dude spent $1 million on security a year and still got shot in the neck. Sometimes you are under attack.
Have a public platform, you are always under attack. Oh my goodness. I have to just sometimes not read the comments because people are nasty. They're so mean. They get personal. They'll comment on your appearance. They'll wish ill upon you. They will, I had somebody tell me, I hope all your hair falls out in a clump at your feet. I mean, people say the most vile, horrible things in comments. But if you go back through most of my content, you will almost never hear me say like, oh my gosh, so many people are attacking me. And I just don't do that because that comes with having a big platform.
How big is your
platform? I don't need you to defend me against people.
7,000 views. 7,000 views. Candace getting millions of views. So I feel like your attacks, you can't relate.
When somebody is kind of operating with these tactics,
7,000 views.
They will present themselves in such a way to kind of promote an environment in which they're asking and implying so that people that are watching them will go into the comments of other people and defend them. And I have seen that over and over and over again. Number 7, she actually puts other people's lives in danger by targeting them and implying something nefarious that she never offers evidence for. She's done this to dozens of people, including non-public figures like that poor hoodie guy. So what she's talking about with the hoodie guy is there was one post that Candace Owens had put out that was sort of having a better look at this guy in I believe it was a green hoodie. And the implication was, turn your attention here, something's going on here with this person. Well, it turns out this was just an athlete from the school, and And whatever Candace thought was his weird behavior or dress was not that weird in the scenario. And so this is a guy who...
Yeah, this is a guy who he came forward and said, hey, I'm the hoodie guy. Sorry I look weird. Here's what I was doing. Here's what's up. Explained himself. And she said that on her show and freaking exonerated him. And she used that as a point like, hey, here's how easy it is if you're sketchy to just come forward and say what's up, right? But if you're hiding and you don't say anything and you don't show a screenshot or show what's up or be forthcoming, that's sketchy. That was the whole point. And the dude's fine. She told on the air that it's fine and no problem.
Whose life could have been utterly ruined by such a powerful person targeting them, blowing up pictures of them, putting them out on the internet. And she was proven wrong about that, but she's not ever gone back and said, oh, I got that wrong. So sorry.
BS, she did.
And then Carrie continues. She's done this to Charlie's closest friends and even to his pastors. Her biggest targets seem to be Seth Dillon and Josh Hammer, though. She name drops them multiple times in almost every video, brings them up constantly, focuses the wrath of her increasingly unstable cult on these men and on Charlie's friends, family, employees, and pastors.
They're fucking liars. They are. I mean, I can't say 1,000,000% about Seth Dillon, but Josh Hammer, liar.
It's like Orwell's 2 minutes of hate, but it's over and over and over. Her cult essentially practices this kind of communal and focused hate of her perceived enemies with her. There's a lot more that's alarming, but that's a good start, and she ends it there. And so she's sort of insinuating all of these people were involved. But again, friends, think this through. For this to be real, all of these people would have to be so wicked, and they would have to have been conspiring together. And Charlie would have to have been stupid enough to surround himself with people that ultimately just were using him and wanted to get him killed so that they could take over and put in their agenda. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there's not even an official theory. It's just she's pointing out that these people are acting weird and shit's weird. And you can have a hunch. You can have a theory. You could say maybe this, maybe that. This guy's acting weird. Why is he acting weird? Maybe he's doing this. It's called having a hunch. Like her point later about like, oh, you're insinuating with your questions. It's like, yeah, it's called having a hunch or a theory. It's allowed. You can have a frickin' theory. You could guess if someone's doing some weird shit and some shit doesn't line up, you're allowed to say, well, maybe this is why. Maybe this is why. You're allowed. Okay? So, but here's what I will say. I'm defending Candace pretty hard here. And I don't think she's perfect. I do think a lot of these behaviors, these cult leader behaviors, she's doing it. I don't think I wouldn't be surprised. I would be surprised if she's like, I'm going to form a cult and using these mind control tactics. I think it's probably just natural, like charismatic behaviors, right? That just, they do have the effect of having these effects, and they do happen to be present in many cult leaders. So I do think there's some of that that's going on. I understand that. And I think the we don't know but we know thing, it's like, that's just called having a hunch, dude. It's just you have a good hunch and you think it's real, which is allowed. Do I think it's at a point now where I feel like it's similar to the Andrew Tate thing, where it's like Andrew Tate was kind of wild and like crazy, and as he like blew up, you could watch him in real time figure out that he needs to be better with what he says, and he needs to be more careful, and he has so much influence that he has to wield it more carefully. And even now, I would think he's kind of brazen still and crazy, but like I followed his arc, and you could see him like tighten it up and him realize, oh shit, like I have a lot of influence and I need to like get it together to a certain degree and like be better. And I think he did in a lot of ways. Like if you compared to if you look back at like when he was first coming on the scene, like I feel like he cleaned it up a lot. As much as you could criticize what he says now, it was pretty gnarly. So anyway, so that's with that. Let's go to this notebookLM thing. I'm really curious to see what happens. So to give you a little, this is going to be an interesting AI experiment. I've been using this to do tons of research. So this is why I want to do the experiment, because I want to see how biased it is. So usually what I do is I make a ChatGPT deep research, a Claude deep research, and a Grok deep research on a topic. I load them in over here as a source, and then you can use the sources to either chat based on what's in the sources, or you can make explainer videos and podcasts, full-length podcasts that go through the source material. And you can make them into a debate, an overview, whatever you want. You can make them long, short, different things. So like if you click audio overview, right, you'll see you can do length, you can make a deep dive, a brief, a critique, or a debate. And so I put in every Candace Owens video about Ben Shapiro, or not Ben Shapiro, sorry, about Charlie Kirk. And I see Ben Shapiro right here. That's why I said that. But anyways, and a couple other conspiracy theory, like the biggest conspiracy theory videos about the specifics on the guns and the ballistic gel tests and things like that that seem like it's a reasonable person, right, making it. So this isn't necessarily to figure out what's true, which is usually what I'm using this for. What I want to do is when I play this podcast, this overview pod, I want to see if it's true to, if it's like taking other shit from the internet and like scared to debunk it. Because at the end of the day, if you watch all of Candace's stuff, she's insinuating very heavily that Israel's involved and that TPUSA is doing a cover up to some degree, and the whole thing's BS, and there's a lot of fishy stuff, and she's on all these trails. So I'm like, is that going to be reflected in this automated pod that's just based on these sources of her videos, or is it going to pull from the internet to try to fight it, and will it not be willing to make these different, draw these same conclusions that Candace is drawing? So we'll just get into it here. And it's really cool. It's an interactive pod, so you can stop it at any time and ask it shit, and the podcast will like respond to you. So it's pretty interesting. But let's go ahead and run it, and we'll see how it goes.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking on a mission that's as intense as it is sensitive.
My headphones aren't plugged in. I stepped on the cord earlier.
It really is.
You, the learner, have given us this huge stack of sources from independent investigations, interviews, some really detailed reports, and they're all focused on the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Right. And we need to be clear, this isn't some historical case. This is about allegations surrounding a very recent and, very contentious event.
The temperature around this is just extremely high.
It is. And our job is to be the impartial guides here, to get through this dense, often conflicting information. We're specifically looking at sources that are asking the big questions.
Like, who actually killed Charlie Kirk?
Exactly. And is the official FBI narrative even trustworthy? Is it feasible? And, the biggest question of all, what just doesn't add up?
So our mission is to synthesize what these sources present. We need to identify what they claim are the facts, what they're flagging as, suspicious, and what theories they think hold the most weight.
Especially regarding this alleged cover-up, this idea of an internal betrayal, and these much larger geopolitical power struggles.
We are going to try and cut through all the noise, all the immediate reactions, and really focus on the forensic and the contextual claims that, according to these sources, just fundamentally break the official story.
So the questions are massive. Was this a lone shooter?
Or was it a coordinated, high-level operation? Let's jump right in. The centerpiece of the official narrative. The alleged shooter, Tyler Robinson, and the physical evidence that investigators say makes no sense.
Right. So Tyler Robinson is the name the public was given. But, right away, the sources start raising flags about his profile and how neatly he fits the political narrative they needed.
And one of the first points of skepticism is that he never confessed.
Never. He has never confessed to the crime. He still pleads innocence.
Which you'd think would be the first thing in a quick, close case like this, right? A confession, maybe some remorse.
Instead, what the sources emphasize is his bewilderment. He seems genuinely confused, especially about specific evidence, like the idea that he supposedly curved casings.
Okay, what does that mean, carving casings? And why is his denial of that specific act so important?
Well, the carving of a casing, it's like a forensic signature. It's designed to be this irrefutable link.
Oh, hey, I think our listeners got something to say.
How do we know that he didn't carve the casings or says that he doesn't carve the casings?
That's a great question, and it goes right to the heart of why the sources find the official narrative suspicious.
Yeah, how can we trust his denial, right? He's the suspect.
Well, the sources make 2 points about this. First, Tyler Robinson has consistently pleaded innocence.
He's never confessed to the crime itself.
And, more importantly, the specific evidence of the carved casings, those are what's alleged to have the meme inscriptions on them.
Things like, hey, fascist catch, or notices bulge.
Exactly. The sources claim that Robinson was bewildered by the idea that he carved casings at all.
So the defense is basically, that's not my style of crime.
Precisely. It's such a specific, unusual, and highly traceable piece of evidence that his genuine confusion over it suggests that, to the investigators, it looked like a key detail had been manufactured.
And if he didn't carve them, then that means someone else did.
Either someone else did, using his weapon, or they were planted to tie the case up neatly.
Which would imply a manufactured connection.
Exactly. And that's why his denial is so crucial. because it immediately throws the whole identity of the shooter into question.
Okay, let's pick up where we were. The carving of the casing, it's designed to be this, irrefutable link.
Between that specific rifle and that exact moment.
So it's very specific evidence.
Very. And if the guy they're pointing to is genuinely bewildered by that act, it opens up that huge possibility of planting.
That someone else did it.
Right, it immediately throws the whole identity of the shooter into question.
And the weapon itself, that adds another layer of just strangeness.
It does. The sources describe the murder weapon as this custom-made family heirloom.
And that detail is important
Because it goes right to motive and expertise. The rifle was inherited by Tyler Robinson.
simply because he was the firstborn son.
It was legacy. But he wasn't a gun guy?
Not at all. The sources say he was a fisherman.
He wasn't a gun enthusiast like his brothers were.
And that just clashes completely with the professional precision that was apparently involved in this.
So the weapon was chosen because it was traceable to a convenient person.
That's what the sources suggest. A non-political figurehead.
Not because he was actually proficient with it.
And this feeds right into the political motive they tried to build.
The official story painted Robinson as this politically charged person.
Who had moved sharply to the left.
Right, pro-gay, pro-trans rights, all of it, causing this huge conflict with his diehard MAGA father.
It's the perfect psychological link for targeting Charlie Kirk.
It creates the perfect, easily digestible lone wolf narrative.
But the independent investigators, they focused on what happened to Robinson's apartment after he was arrested.
And the claims from the family are pretty incredible.
Both his family and the roommate's family, Lance Triggs, they alleged that the apartment was demonstrably staged.
Staged after Robinson was already in custody.
And the specific detail of the furry bed is just, it's astonishing.
It is. The sources claim this object was put there on purpose.
The goal was to transfer the attributes of his roommate, Lance, onto Tyler.
So if the investigators felt they needed to visually stage the scene...
To add details like that, it suggests they were trying to build a profile after the fact.
Exactly. They were trying to manufacture a profile that fits the government's story.
The politically motivated, trans rights sympathetic killer.
The sources conclude the priority was never the truth.
It was about creating a convenient perpetrator.
And on top of that, the whole start of the investigation was a mess.
There was footage everywhere on that campus, UVU.
But the first photo they released of the suspect was incredibly blurry.
Which raises a simple question. If the goal was to catch him immediately, why release an image that's intentionally obscured?
It feels like it was meant to hinder the manhunt.
To slow things down just long enough for the staging and the narrative construction to take place.
That delay, those first few hours, that's what the independent investigators found so suspicious.
Okay, let's unpack what might be the most technical and maybe the most damaging claim against the official narrative.
The ballistics.
Yes, the ballistics breakdown and the miracle bullet stop.
This is where the physics of it all, according to the sources,
voice crack.
just completely dismantled
Physics.
the FBI's account.
So the official story is that Robinson used a bolt-action rifle, and he fired one single round.
And that's where the PR machine just immediately steps in. TPUSA's PR agent quoted an alleged surgeon.
Alleged surgeon.
Right, an alleged surgeon who claimed that the fact Charlie Kirk's body somehow stopped this high-powered, high-velocity .3006 round.
Without an exit wound was an absolute miracle.
Yes, that he saved the people standing behind him.
And the surgeon apparently said his healthy bone density made him like the man of steel.
And this idea, it's presented in the sources not just as unlikely, but as physically laughable.
Okay, let's get into the mechanics of that. Why is that miracle claim physically impossible, according to the sources?
What is a .306 round? It's a very powerful, high-energy rifle round.
It's often used for, big game hunting.
So it's designed to do a lot of damage, a tremendous amount.
When a supersonic projectile like that hits a human body, it causes this massive energy transfer.
It's called hydrostatic shock. The sources are clear.
A .306 hitting a torso would normally create a huge exit wound.
Or worse, it could decapitate someone just from the shock wave going through the tissue.
So for that round to just stop completely inside the body with no exit wound.
It means the bullet had to lose almost all of its enormous kinetic energy inside the target.
So this whole idea of healthy bone density stopping a high-powered rifle round.
Turning a person into a human shield, that's just pseudoscience.
According to the sources, yes, it's nonsense designed to protect the narrative.
The narrative that only one shot was fired and no one else was in danger.
And the independent investigators, they actually tested this.
They did. They detailed their experiments.
They conducted these gel block shots that are designed to mimic the human body.
And what did they find? These tests confirmed that for a round like that to stop inside the body,
You would need an extremely acute angle, a very steep shot into the body.
that's the only way it doesn't just pass right through.
And why does the need for a steep shot, contradict the official story?
Because the story was that the shot came from the roof at a disputed 10-degree angle.
Which isn't steep at all.
Not nearly steep enough. The sources argue a 10-degree angle shot wouldn't guarantee the bullet stopping.
Not with that kind of power. So the physical evidence, the bullet staying inside.
It demands a trajectory that just radically deviates from the scene the FBI laid out.
And that inconsistency is one of the most alarming facts in the whole case.
It's a huge one. And this technical failure, it just flows right into the impossibly tight timeline and all the other suspicious things they found at the scene.
Right. The sources say the whole thing happened in about a minute. The suspect ran, shot, and ran off.
And that 1-minute window, it's just not compatible with the claim that the rifle was disassembled and then reassembled on the roof.
Not a bolt-action rifle. The time it would take just doesn't fit.
And then there was the screwdriver.
The screwdriver, yeah. Found on the roof near the shooter's alleged position.
Why is the screwdriver suspicious?
Because a standard screwdriver is allegedly not the tool you use to take apart that type of rifle.
Disassembly is usually done by hand, or maybe with specialized gunsmithing tools.
So it's like a prop.
It suggests it's a prop, something placed there to give the look of a hurried, amateur disassembly.
Which fits the lone wolf profile they were building.
But if the whole scene was staged, that misplaced screwdriver is a pretty strong indicator of intentional evidence planting.
So the physical evidence is suspect, the timeline is suspect.
The next place the sources looked was the communications.
The text chain. The supposed digital smoking gun between Tyler Robinson and his roommate, Lance Twiggs.
And this was another massive red flag for the investigators.
Huge. They immediately noted the grammar.
This alleged 22-year-old, Tyler Robinson, is using perfect grammar, commas, and periods.
Not exactly typical for a frantic text exchange.
Not at all. It was so pristine, so formal, that it felt like the texts were drafted specifically to be presented as evidence.
And the content of the text is just pure self-incrimination.
Pure, elaborate self-incrimination. Robinson texts Lance these specific details.
Including the really strange phrase, "I will have left no evidence."
Which is an insane thing to say right after you just left the murder weapon at the scene of the crime.
It's the kind of line a screenwriter would write, not a real person in that situation.
And then, right after that, he says he's worried about explaining losing the rifle to his father.
Why would you worry about explaining a lost rifle when you're about to be arrested for a presidential-level assassination?
You wouldn't. The sources suggest this was all an attempt to clumsily insert that MAGA father-son conflict
Into what may have been a completely fabricated digital conversation.
And the most significant thing missing from these texts,
The timestamps.
conspicuously absent, no metadata, no verifiable timestamps.
And that makes any independent timeline reconstruction totally impossible.
Which again points to them intentionally obscuring the facts.
And the timeline they did give was just unbelievable.
It's critical. Lance Twiggs gets brought in around 11 p.m.
They seize his electronics overnight, and then the feds claim the entire case is closed the very next morning.
That's an impossibly fast timeline to close a major assassination case.
Especially one relying on digital evidence that should take days, if not weeks, to analyze properly.
It just paints this definitive picture of a rushed, predetermined conclusion.
So if we accept what the sources are saying, that the physical evidence was planted, the timeline is impossible.
Then the whole investigation shifts. It's not about who pulled the trigger anymore.
It's about who covered it up. And the sources point a very direct finger at the FBI and their alleged interferers.
What were the specific claims about federal pressure on the Utah authorities?
Sources allege that the FBI was pressuring Utah to close the case. Fast.
This high-level federal pressure, it suggests there was an incentive to stop the investigation.
From going anywhere beyond that lone shooter narrative.
Because if the state authorities had been allowed to dig into it,
The ballistics and the timeline inconsistencies would have likely blown the whole case wide open.
and this rush to close the case also lines up with how they handle the witnesses.
It does. The sources found that very suspicious.
The feds are accused of prioritizing witnesses who had these strange connections to the government,
Or who, allegedly came from overseas.
instead of relying on local, unconnected witnesses.
Right. It suggests a pattern of only validating the testimony that confirms the story they already wanted to tell.
And then there's the most serious allegation of all, about evidence tampering.
The witness with the video footage?
Yes, a witness handed over footage.
And she claims she saw a woman with the alleged shooter who looked like an accomplice.
An accomplice, yes. And crucially, this witness stated that she believed the FBI had specifically cut the footage of this woman.
Out of the video she provided.
That is an incredibly serious claim that the government intentionally manipulated video evidence.
It's a claim of a federal cover-up to make sure the lone shooter theory held up.
And to potentially protect a co-conspirator who might have had ties to, intelligence or some other institution.
This is one of the key pieces of evidence the sources cite to prove a cover-up existed.
Which brings us to the claims of internal betrayal.
This centers on Charlie Kirk's own inner circle, specifically his chief of staff's Mikey McCoy.
And the reaction time captured on footage is central to the suspicion here.
What did the footage show?
The sources claim that footage shows Mikey McCoy reacting in less than 1 second after the shot was fired.
Less than 1 second.
It's an almost impossibly fast reaction time. It suggests a state of, profound readiness.
Or pre-knowledge. It's the reaction of someone who was anticipating exactly what was about to happen.
And the official explanation for what he did next was what?
That he was securing camera footage to spare Charlie's widow, Erica, from seeing it, to protect her from the trauma.
But the sources, they challenge that motivation pretty strongly.
They absolutely do. They noted very vehemently that the specific footage Mikey secured was, ironically, the least traumatizing footage available.
Intense speculation. Insiders reported that Mikey McCoy seemed all too happy.
That he had an extra spring in his step in the aftermath.
It suggested he was being primed to take over.
And those rumors got serious validation when his own father, Pastor Rob McCoy, publicly stated he had a plan for Mikey.
And this wasn't just talk. Mikey immediately stepped into Charlie's shoes, speaking at Liberty University in Charlie's place.
Okay, we have to pause here. We have to talk about the claim about Rob McCoy's background.
Assistant Chief of Staff for Psychological Warfare in the Navy.
Yes. That is an extraordinarily specific and, frankly, alarming detail.
To connect to the father of the person who immediately succeeds a political figure after an assassination.
It's a bombshell detail. The sources suggest that a background in psychological warfare implies a deep expertise in, narrative construction.
Information control, influencing public perception.
All the elements you would need for a successful, swift cover-up.
Precisely. And what's more, Rob McCoy had just transitioned out of his church role in mid-July of that year,
citing that he was anticipating a bigger role at TPUSA Faith.
The timing isn't better. The sources argue that timing suggests a pre-planned move into the organization,
potentially setting the stage for his son's sudden rise after Kirk's death.
The synergy there between an intelligence background and narrative control, it just strongly supports the theory of a coordinated internal betrayal.
And that military and intelligence footprint, it extends way beyond just the McCoy family.
It links directly to the location of the assassination.
UVU, Utah Valley University.
What do the sources say about the campus?
It's cited as having a significant intelligence presence. Oh, yeah,
Can we rewind to Rob McCoy? Because it sounded like you said he was in charge of the some psychological operations in the Navy. Can you tell me again what that was? And isn't that Rob McCoy's father, not Mikey McCoy's father?
That is a great question, and we absolutely should clarify the genealogy here because it is a little complicated.
Yes, the lineage is key here.
You are right to pause us. The sources we are synthesizing focus on Pastor Rob McCoy.
And yes, Rob McCoy's father was Roy Edgar McCoy.
Roy Edgar McCoy was a naval captain, but the sources specifically flagged that he was also the assistant chief of staff for psychological warfare in the Navy.
That's the alarming detail that the sources keep returning to, the family lineage being steeped in psychological operations.
So Rob McCoy is the pastor, the father of Mikey McCoy, and the son of Roy Edgar McCoy, the psychological warfare expert.
The sources are drawing a direct line from this family history of narrative and information control to what they see happening after Charlie Kirk's death.
It's the psychological operations expertise that the
Okay, that's crazy. That is literally wild. I don't know. If it has nothing to do with it, that sucks for Rob because, geez.
independent investigators are using to explain the rapid, tightly controlled public narrative surrounding Kirk's death.
It suggests the tools for manipulating public perception are essentially a family trade, which is a powerful circumstantial claim.
And that coordination, that deep expertise in narrative construction, it extends way beyond just the McCoy family.
It links directly to the location of the assassination, which we were about to discuss.
UVU, Utah Valley University.
What do the sources say about the campus?
It's cited as having a significant intelligence presence.
The sources claim the campus is connected to a pipeline for intelligence and LDS church recruitment,
with historical ties to Soviet studies. So this was not your typical college campus. Not at all.
It was an intelligence nexus.
And this extends to the key officials involved in the official investigation, too.
Right, the sources list several shady connections.
Absolutely. The medical examiner, Dr. Dre Smith Amaro, is a major in the Army.
And also works for a major corporation, the Erickson Boyd Corporation.
And the company that provided some of the key witness footage.
Cosera Engineering, they reportedly employed a professional actor.
And allegedly had an Israeli individual listed as a founder.
So when you put all that together, a military ME, a footage provider linked to intelligence and staging.
It becomes really hard to believe the official story that this was just a simple domestic crime.
It looks like a consistent pattern of intelligence and military assets being woven into the whole official process.
That's what the sources see. Before we move on to the motive, let's touch on something really unsettling.
The claim that Charlie Kirk himself had a sense that this was coming.
Yes, sources close to him reported this feeling of foreboding in the days leading up to it.
One person recalled an overwhelming sense of doom about 10 days prior.
And Kirk himself apparently had a spiritual pull to go to the UK right before.
He did, and most chillingly, Kirk allegedly used to dream vividly.
And he told people he knew he would die young and that he would be betrayed.
And this was apparently confirmed after his death.
In a dream, he allegedly told a close friend in a dream after his death that he had been betrayed.
This personal premonition, according to the sources, it just strongly suggests this wasn't some random act.
It was a coordinated betrayal by people close to him.
So we have all these inconsistencies in the physical evidence, what looks like a rushed federal cover-up.
An inner circle member whose family has that background in military psychological operations.
All surrounding a victim who knew he would be betrayed.
This demands a powerful motive. If the sources are right about the level of coordination and interference, the motive has to be monumental.
And the consensus among the sources, it points squarely at one thing.
Charlie Kirk's alleged final shift in his political stance.
Regarding Israel, this is the betrayal that Charlie himself allegedly confirmed.
Let's get into the specifics of that shift, because the timing is it's unbelievable.
It happened hours before his death.
The sources claim that just 48 hours before he was killed, Charlie Kirk allegedly told people inside TPUSA,
Jewish donors, and a prominent rabbi that he felt he had no choice but to abandon the pro-Israel cause outright.
He said he refused to be bullied anymore by powerful Jewish donors.
Yes, it suggests that some intense financial and political pressure had just reached a breaking point.
I mean, the significance of that decision, you can't overstate it.
He was a major Christian Zionist figurehead. This would have meant a massive, immediate redirection of millions of dollars.
And a catastrophic split in the conservative movement.
Exactly. And this alleged decision is in direct conflict with the narrative they pushed immediately after he died.
Right. Key conservative figures like Ben Shapiro and others were accused by the sources of starting an immediate PR war.
Their goal, according to these investigators, was to roll Charlie's legacy into supporting the Zionist cause.
To completely erase his final position. It was an effort to make sure the political and financial alignment stayed intact.
Which suggests the money and influence tied to that cause were the ultimate motives for silencing him.
And speaking of money, let's look at the financial pressures inside TPUSA.
Do the sources suggest there was corruption that Kirk was about to expose?
Yes. An insider claimed Charlie had been expressing growing concerns about where the money was going.
The lack of transparency. And, critically, Charlie had apparently removed himself completely from the specifics of fundraising.
He left those operations to his lieutenants, which creates a really dangerous separation between the figurehead of an organization
and the people who actually control the money. It's an environment that's just ripe for corruption.
and the behavior of the donors after the assassination. It offers some compelling circumstantial evidence.
It's the key takeaway on the money front,
The sources noted that some donors who had previously demanded their names be taken off a building.
which suggests a major disagreement or a withdrawal of funding.
They suddenly reversed that demand after Charlie was killed.
That reversal suggests that whatever conflict or financial threat Kirk posed to them was gone.
It was immediately neutralized by his death.
The sources also brought up a big legal compliance question about TPUSA's finances as a 501c3.
Right. A 501c3 has to conduct annual audits, make sure funds are spent right.
The allegations in the sources suggested there were internal practices, like outsourcing millions to contractors to get alleged kickbacks.
So substantial corruption, if true, yes.
It could jeopardize their tax-exempt status and expose the people in charge of the money to legal trouble.
The sources suggest that Charlie's scrutiny of these practices created a powerful financial incentive for those benefiting from the system to have him removed.
Now we have to zoom out again, connect this very local event in Utah to the international anomalies the sources noted.
The military contracted plane.
This might be the strangest detail in this entire deep dive.
It connects a domestic event to foreign intelligence operation.
The sources tracked a military contracted plane tail number N888KG. It left from a military base.
And on September 10th, the day of the assassination, it did something unusual.
Very unusual. It dipped low over the Provo airport runway. It made a loop.
And then it departed for Cairo on the 11th.
And the really crucial detail is the passenger manifest.
Yes, the sources claim that people were mysteriously missing from the plane when it left for Egypt.
So the question is,
Why were Egyptian military subcontractor, or at least people using this very specific military plane, in Provo, Utah?
on the exact day of the assassination, it suggests a high-level international component.
Potentially linking foreign intelligence or specialized military assets to the crime scene.
And its immediate aftermath?
And this international footprint is then supported by the behavior of Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Who reacted almost immediately?
Suspiciously fast. He tweeted about Kirk's death before the President of the United States had even commented.
It was seen as this bizarre, overly aggressive self-insertion into a domestic political event.
And he was then accused of lying about a letter.
Outright lying, according to the sources.
Lying about the contents of a letter Charlie wrote in May.
Trying to spin it as a positive affirmation of their alliance.
When the sources claim the letter actually reflected Kirk's growing concerns.
Exactly. This proactive effort to control the narrative from the very highest geopolitical level.
Immediately after the event, it just strongly reinforces that central theory.
That Kirk's shift on the pro-Israel cause was the primary motive.
Okay, let's drill down into the specifics of the scene itself one last time.
Because even the immediate location of Charlie's body is flagged as suspicious.
Yeah, the sources analyzed the footage of the immediate aftermath.
And what did they see?
They noted that Charlie was never actually put on the ground.
His head was flopped over as he was laid directly onto some equipment boxes.
Which raises a logistical question. Why were big equipment boxes right there on either side of him?
Like a makeshift platform.
The sources suggest it implied a pre-planned medical extraction, a triage setup.
It could indicate that the people who responded knew exactly where the victim would fall and how they would need to manage the body.
And if we go back to the ballistics, the need for that very steep shot for the bullet to stop.
It connects directly to one of the most sensational claims from the sources.
The idea of a shot coming from below.
It's a radical theory, but it was supported by multiple tips.
Sources got information about an entire underground system near the shooting area.
Including a trapdoor.
A trapdoor and a massive pipeline right under the flag where the shooting happened.
A shot fired from there would naturally provide that extremely acute vertical trajectory.
It would fit the physical evidence perfectly, while completely contradicting the rooftop shooter story.
And the complexity of a system like that, it definitely points away from a lone amateur killer.
The sources say it definitively does.
This deep dive also has to look at how high-profile critics and influencers reacted.
Because their behavior says a lot about institutional defensiveness.
And you see two distinct types of defense here. First, the political defense.
Ben Shapiro and Josh Hammer are brought up a lot.
Shapiro's accused of pushing lies about Charlie's stance after his death.
While also having worked to stop Charlie's rise when he was alive, right? A complete hypocrisy.
And Josh Hammer was highlighted for a text exchange where he was caught pushing his new book on the very day Charlie was killed.
It just suggested this extreme prioritization of personal agenda over any genuine inquiry.
And the second type of defense was from intelligence or law enforcement assets.
Which brings in the highly unusual involvement of the FBI director, Kash Patel.
He was at the memorial service.
A very questionable move for a sitting FBI director in a case like this.
And then, even more tellingly, he issued what the sources called an embarrassing Mean Girls tweet.
A public defensive statement, a very public, very personalized statement defending himself and his associate, Alexis Wilkins.
Who was allegedly accused of being a homicide agent.
This aggressive public defensive posture from the head of the FBI, it only added fuel to the conspiracy theories about federal corruption and protecting assets.
And finally, the sources highlight the tactic that was used to silence questions.
The manipulation of grief, yes.
What does that mean? It means invoking Erica Kirk's mourning.
Suggesting it's inappropriate or disrespectful to ask questions about the investigation.
But the sources claim Erica herself never asked for the investigation to stop.
In fact, the sources believe she wants the truth.
So this tactic is framed as a deliberate, cynical attempt to stifle legitimate inquiry under the guise of respecting the widow's grief.
Okay, so after synthesizing all of this from the sources, what can we say for sure?
Which just doesn't add up. We can say for sure that the sources present two wildly conflicting, mutually exclusive narratives.
And that the evidence supporting the official story is, according to these sources, just riddled with physical impossibilities.
So let's summarize those two narratives one more time, clearly.
Okay, the official narrative. A quick close case.
A lone, transcurious shooter, Tyler Robinson.
He uses a conveniently placed rifle, and the victim survives this high-powered round because of a miraculous bullet stop.
A domestic, politically motivated hate crime.
And the competing narrative offered by the independent sources.
It
That it
just
was an
said he
intricate
survived.
conspiracy, one that involves high-level institutional interference.
Yep, go
Did-
on.
Did you just say that he survived the shooting because of his bone density? The miraculous?
That is precisely what the official narrative claimed, yes.
It's one of the most astonishing claims in all of these sources.
Remember, we were...
What makes
Yeah,
you think that the official narrative says that he survived? No one thinks he survived. He definitely died, and the official narrative says he died.
That is a very important point for us to clarify, and thank you for bringing that up.
You are absolutely right. Charlie Kirk died.
He was assassinated. The official narrative says he died.
The moment we were talking about was the claim about why the bullet stopped.
The official story needed to explain how a .3006 round, which should have passed right through,
And potentially killed people standing behind him.
how that high-powered round ended up stopping inside his body.
The sources quote the TPUSA PR agent, Andrew Covette, who wrote a very long tweet,
He explained the lack of an exit wound by quoting an alleged surgeon.
who said the bullet stopping was an absolute miracle due to Kirk's healthy bone density.
So the bullet stopped, he still died, but the physics of the bullet stopping is what they call the miracle.
It's the man of steel theory, which the independent investigators called pseudoscience.
Because around like a .306, it carries a couple thousand foot-pounds of energy.
It's designed to go straight through large game.
The idea that soft neck tissue or even human vertebrae could stop it is this central absurd...
Okay, that explains a lot. So, if you're new on here, I've realized I got some more viewers here now that I have been going. But I was doing an experiment with notebookLM or LM where I literally loaded in frickin' every Candace Owens video about Charlie Kirk assassination. And then I generated a podcast based on all these sources, which are her videos and a couple other kind of conspiracy videos. And I wanted to see if notebookLM, when it creates a podcast out of the sources, if it will be true to the sources, because I've watched all the Candace Owens videos. And I wondered if it would be true to the sources or not. So it seemed like it really was, but I also noticed that it did make some mistakes, like it said there at the end that he miraculously survived. So that seems like the podcast generation is a misunderstanding. So I'm generating a new podcast that's going to be a debate. I'll probably listen to it later. But this is really interesting. I know I swerved from the Candace Owens cult thing, but when you see it that way, when you put it that way, all the stuff she's talking about out there, it really does seem freaking absurd. And I'm curious to dive more into this and do the opposite kind of report where it's like, give me the flip side of this and see kind of what it sounds like with the flip side of it. It does seem a little sketchy, I will admit. I want to get a new report. Let's see here. I want to make a new report that just like gets all the claims and then put it in ChatGPT and have it try to debunk it. Create your own. Here we go. I'm going to say, please lay out all the claims related to the Charlie Kirk case and assassination. That's not how you spell that. I don't know how to spell, sorry. How come I got 7 viewers and no chats? Be exhaustive and thorough. Cool. Okay. I'm going to come back and look at that another time. But anyways, that's it for now. Does anyone in the chat want to say hello? Or tell me your opinion? Usually I stream to 1 people or 0 people, so having 7 people in there, I'm freaking like, woo! Today's my music day, so I'm going to go vibe out and make some music, I think. And I'm going to come back on here and dive into this later. And hit the sub and the bell if you want to follow along, though, with some other ones. I've got a research project into the history and evolution of the ideas of heaven and hell. So that's going to be an interesting one I'm going to do next. And I've got this new, this is crazy, this guy on YouTube who freaking died. Or it's either a hoax, but he had like this metal cylinder that he found in the desert, and then he tries to drill into it after like 3 months of making videos of it, like fucking with it. And then this like light appears in the room, and he like has a seizure and basically dies, and it's like going crazy on the internet. Seems like a hoax, but there's also some really weird things about it, so I'm looking into that a bunch. And then I've got this Paul Problems one, which is all about if Paul the apostle is sus and trustworthy or not, and if he really teaches what Jesus taught or makes up his own teachings. So that's what I've got coming up next. How do I have 8 people and no comments? That's so weird. Or no chats. Usually I get 1 person in the chat. Live chat. Oh, here we go. Or I got 1 chat. What does this say? Candace Owens is a grifter. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I think it's just not, it's not one or the other, right? It's like she probably is doing some grifting. She's obviously contemptuous. She probably isn't getting everything right. She's probably really biased. There's issues, but I do feel like at the end of the day, she's pretty honest and pretty... I mean, I don't think that many people would be watching and following along if there wasn't something weird about this whole shit and people want to find out. And to me, when you see someone like her who's willing to go through the insane barrages of attacks and get fired from her job for saying what she thinks is true, right? That just is way more trustworthy to me than these like big media corporations and people who have been just like towing the line for years and years and never like switching their mind or changing their mind, or I don't know. I just think you got to take what you get, and you got to break a couple eggs to make an omelet. And she's breaking eggs, but we're all hoping she makes us an omelet. So, anyways, that's what it is, I think. Okay, I'm gonna dip out of here. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe, hit the bell, and click the link in the description to go on my Substack, because I'm not on social media. So if you want to stay up to date with me and see what I publish and see what I'm writing about and doing, I'm currently in Thailand. I'm traveling all around and stuff. So that's what it is. And it's free. And you just get the updates in your inbox each week. So we'll see you on the next one. Peace.